Hey everyone, and I basically went to grad school, took out thousands of dollars on loans, and basically ended up becoming a full-time YouTuber. I mean, if there's three things that I can account for how I just ended up becoming a full-time YouTuber and I have never even worked a day or more than a week at my supposed trade job. So I went to school to become a physical therapist. I am a licensed physical therapist, but I ended up just doing YouTube full time. So here are the three main reasons why I ended up just working online from home. So number one is related to the time, okay? So I realized that while going through school, time became a lot more precious to me. You know, becoming a full-time student, what I didn't want happening was that I didn't want to get sucked into work. I didn't want to get sucked into my studies and not even spend a lot of time with my own family or friends, you know? Growing up as an Asian person, family meant a lot to me. I mean, right here, right next to my computer, I always have a picture frame of my family right next to me, so I'm always thinking about them. I do a lot for them. I would do a lot for them, but going through graduate school, we were looking at about 50 hours a week, taken away from my own personal time. That time could have been spent with family and friends. And once I realized that I was spending all this time away from people who I loved, I really began to cherish a lot of my time. So it came down to the choice of, do I want to work a 9-to-5 job, or do I want to spend 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., spend that time with family, and then spend 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. working on my online businesses. I chose the second alternative, where I would much rather spend time with family. And it sucks to say, I did go to school for over 7 years, which includes undergraduate school. I spent a countless number of hours in clinicals, and I really decided for myself, how do I want to spend my time, And so that's one question I have for you is, how do you want to spend your time? Do you really think spending 10 hours a week, or 10 hours a day, at your job is worth more than like seeing your kids grow up, or seeing your parents get old, or spending as much time as you can with your significant other? Or would you rather spend that time with your significant other, or your kids, or your parents who are getting old? So that's one of the main reasons why I decided to really pursue online businesses and YouTube. And because of that, during the day, I'm able to take my mom on errands, take her to her doctor's appointments, go to the park to do high school kid things like play basketball, football, tennis with my friends. A lot of my time is much well managed by myself, and that's simply because I have my own online businesses. Now, the second reason why I decided to become a full-time YouTuber, and let it be known that when I graduated from graduate school back in 2019, I took an entire year off and only worked for 2 weeks or so in home health physical therapy before I quit and pursued YouTube full-time. And the reason why I quit is because my YouTube was finally taking off. I've spent almost over 2 years trying to get YouTube to take off. It's a hard algorithm to crack, but I've studied it long and hard. But once that took off, I basically took the leap of quitting my 2-week job. And this is also when COVID was happening, so I didn't feel comfortable going to people's homes, especially elderly people's homes, in which I might spread the disease. So I quit my job and I became a full-time YouTuber. And the second reason why I basically became a full-time YouTuber outside of graduate school was because of the passion. I realized that, compared to physical therapy and YouTube, I was constantly always thinking about YouTube. I was always doing something on YouTube. Late at night, I'm always watching YouTube videos, but I'm watching it from a creator standpoint rather than a viewer standpoint, if that makes sense. So I'm watching from an analytical standpoint. I'm always seeing what video creators do to make their videos better. I'm always seeing why this video worked, why this video didn't work, why this video has 1 million views and a video on the same topic only has 1,000 views. So I became very analytical with YouTube to the point where I decided to start doing it myself on my other channels. And that same time, that same passion, that same uncontrollable drive, which is defined as passion, I didn't really have that when it came to physical therapy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the physical therapy profession, and it really even still confuses me to this day how I personally am not working as a physical therapist anymore. And I'll be honest, I'm very inexperienced as a physical therapist. I only went to school for it, and how I ended up doing YouTube full-time still, blows my mind. It kind of follows that cliche of saying, do what you're passionate about, and once you realize that there's something that you can't stop thinking about, there's something that you have to do, there's something that you truly enjoy doing, and there's something that you can do honestly for free and you won't mind, that was YouTube for me. And I'm sure a lot of people have passions for other things. My passion in particular is videos, video editing, and YouTube. So with that being said, I really felt like, you know, I'm really gonna enjoy this, and as long as I put all my time into this one thing, which is YouTube, it's gotta work. I mean, I've seen it work for other people. There's no reason why it can't work for me. So what I'm passionate about and what I can recommend to you is that do something that you're passionate about. I just hope that you don't end up doing or going to a field of work that you're only doing just because you have a degree in that field of work. So the third reason how I ended up becoming a full-time YouTuber after graduate school was because I wanted to feel like I was in control of my future, okay? When I started applying for graduate school, it was quite stressful. You know, I only applied to 6 schools back in 2015. I was still in college, and between October and December of 2015, I already had received about 5 rejection letters, and I was on the wait list for 1 school. So at that period of time in my life, I was very stressful knowing that, you know, I spent all this time going to school. I spent all this time studying, getting good grades, trying to get into a school in which I may not even get into. And it really is nerve-wracking knowing that my application might just be sitting on the desk of admission counselors, and they have the power of whether or not to accept me or reject me. So I really didn't like the fact that my future was in someone else's hands. I mean, I was very uncomfortable with that, and so it was at that point I decided to decide a future for myself. Okay, this is when I started getting into online businesses, and I started reading about it, seeing how people were making money online, and I became really fascinated with the idea of, you know, there's more millionaires being made online than there is from physical assets. So with that being said, back in 2015 I started my very first side hustle, and that was creating book trailers on Fiverr for people, and that became very successful, and it's something I actually really enjoy doing. I love watching new movie trailers even till this day, so creating cinematic movie trailers for people on Fiverr was a really cool thing to do, and that was my side hustle. So when I ended up getting accepted into graduate school, I kept hustling on the side. You know, during lectures I was always reading on new business ideas such as drop shipping, YouTube, Instagram, print on demand, blogging, websites, YouTube. I already said YouTube, sorry, see, I even repeat YouTube sometimes. But yeah, during school I was always hustling on the side, and with that being said, school still took up a lot of my time, and I just wanted to be in control of my future. I wanted to be in control of my time, and one of the ways I feel like I can manage that is by, again, starting my own online business. So that's why I also dove into getting into YouTube. So with that being said, a lot of my life has changed. I always planned, I told myself I was going to become a physical therapist back in high school of my senior year, and I got a kinesiology degree, and I went to school for physical therapy. But how things played out is that I realized, you know, out of nowhere, my passion started becoming YouTube. I really couldn't stop thinking about it. So with that being said, do I recommend not going to college? I mean, I definitely am not against college. I'm more so for the idea that do something that you're passionate about. Go into a field of work that you're actually interested in. Don't just go into, you know, nursing just because your parents are nurses. Don't just go into engineering just because your parents are engineers. Do something that you genuinely have an interest in if you do plan to pursue college. Now, do I regret going to graduate school? I don't regret going to graduate school, but I do wish school just took up a lot less time, because a lot of what I learned, I mean, wasn't really applicable when it came to actual clinical field work. So school took up a whole lot of time, and I really disliked the fact that it was taking my time away from my family, who I really, you know, I cherish my time with, especially with my parents getting older. Now, it is with that being said though, all the time I spent in school, I wish I had spent more time with my family. So now, do I recommend quitting your job and pursuing your passions? Definitely not, okay? I really don't think it's a smart idea if you have some sort of investment or revenue stream incoming to quit that just to pursue your passion in which you're not 100% sure of whether or not it's going to work. Online business is a lot easier if you have capital to play with, okay? That's one thing that I realized starting from no money at all. But if you have a temporary job, I highly promote keeping that temporary job, because what it comes down to is that you don't have to quit your current job just to pursue your passions, okay? It really comes down to becoming a wizard of time management, and this is what a good friend of mine told me, in that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It just comes down to how well you spend that time. I mean, do you spend 3 hours or more on Netflix when you could be spending that time on working on a side hustle? Do you spend more than an hour showering when you could be spending that time on a side hustle? Do you spend 3 hours at the mall? I mean, we all have the same time. It just matters who hustles harder, and that's one of the main reasons why why I started this YouTube channel called Asian Hustler Nation, because it's inspired by my favorite podcast called Side Hustle Nation, and I'll link them down below in the description. So Nick, if you're watching this, props to you, man. You really inspire me. And during graduate school, I always used to listen to that podcast, but there's always people putting more work in than others. And whether it be in a school setting or an online business setting or in a YouTube setting, the person who puts in more work is always much more likely to succeed. So I definitely don't recommend quitting your job. I mean, I definitely recommend pursuing your passions. And with that being said, I hope you guys can get a takeaway from this and don't feel obligated that you always have to go to school. We live in the 21st century in which, again, there are more millionaires being made online than there are from physical assets. So just remember, the future is yours. Your time is yours. How you want to spend your time is up to you. How you want your future to become, you can mold that yourself. Just don't leave that to someone else's decision, okay? Follow your passions, and yeah, that is my brief story on how I basically ended up going to graduate school. You know, I have a doctorate's degree and I just ended up becoming a full-time YouTuber. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's given you some insight, and I hope it's actually also taught you a little bit more about me. And if you like this video, do subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be posting a lot of content regarding me hustling, showing you what I do, giving you valuable insight. So I look forward to hopefully meeting you, and I'll see you in the next video.